Let's get to our first review of the night and talk about a highly regarded, at least with its first season, but one that, the second game, it had its fair share of criticism, and I think also some of that is justified with season 2 of The Last of Us. So The Last of Us season 2, it picks up 5 years after the events of the first season, where Joel slaughters an entire hospital of the Fireflies, one of the last remaining hopes for humanity, and does it in order to save Ellie, who were trying to make a cure for this new apocalypse, but making a vaccine would have killed Ellie. So he makes the selfish choice of protecting her. This picks up 5 years later. They're living in Jackson, Wyoming, have a safe community. We have some of Ellie's friends that she goes on patrol with. When events happen that lead Ellie onto this quest for vengeance into Seattle with this two overwhelming forces between the two of them and the infected and how they play into it. But I think the real crux of this season is the emotional fallout between Joel and Ellie's relationship. Because when we get to the premiere of it, Joel and Ellie are not in a good place. What did you think about that?
Yeah, no, like in that aspect, it does follow closely to the game where like we pick up, 5 years later, but we're not sure where this relationship is. Like you said, like they're a little distant with each other. Like, in this show, like Joel is like, talking to a therapist about it. Ellie is avoiding questions about it. So it's like, you already have this feeling of what happened between them to like get them to this place.
And it's something that I think the game handled it a little bit better because the entire fallout of Joel and Ellie's relationship, it was only implied at the end of the first game. And here we essentially start the game on the morning of Ellie going on patrol and leading to the inciting incident in the game. And here we do what the first season did so well and lead up to events that will transpire by getting to spend time in Jackson and getting to meet Joel's aforementioned therapist, who we mentioned when we covered the game, was played by the wonderful Catherine O'Hara.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Love her.
Honor, don't even make her sit down with me anymore. And what do I get for it? Nothing. She comes home, shuts herself in the damn garage, which I should never have allowed her to move into. And that's it. Not so much as a hello. I see her around town, gives me a nod like I'm a stranger or some asshole.
Tell you what. Let's try something different. Well, 19-year-old daughter, she's acting toward me like every 19-year-old daughter has ever acted towards dad, ever.
Aren't you supposed to be validating me or something?
She's so good. She's a alcoholic, weed smoking therapist.
She is one of like the great character actors. Every time I see her in anything, she always brings life to it. Even in something that I was just met on, like Beetlejuice. I was like, okay, same. Catherine O'Hara understands the assignment. And she's great. And there's so much I think that the show does well, because in this show, we get hints of a character called Eugene, who was only mentioned and name dropped in the game. And she has a connection to Eugene that is explored, I think, much more here, and leads into one of the better episodes in episode 6, which we'll get to eventually. But another thing that I think the show does really well is build the chemistry and the dynamic between Ellie and the new cast of characters that we have. We have young Mazzino, who plays Jesse, and I think the MVP of the season is Isabella Merced, who plays Dina.
Yeah, easily the MVP.
Yeah, because Dina in the game, she is, I think, a great character in her own right, but we don't really get to spend much time with her besides like little asides that we see in, while we're exploring Seattle, seeing how her and Ellie's relationship develops. But here we get a lot more with her. And I feel like we get so much of the chemistry that makes the relationship work.
I totally agree. Like, there's something about Dina in the show where like just like you said, like we get more time with her, like aside from Ellie. Like in the game,
Mhm.
she's really attached to Ellie at the hip for most of the time. So like we don't really get to see what she's thinking or what she
Mhm.
wants and stuff like that. But there's some great scenes in the show, like particularly with her and Joel, like early on, or like just like
Yeah,
her and other characters. That
yeah,
I'm like, yeah,
even her character introduction, it's such a mirror of what Ellie and Joel's relationship was like in the first season and
Mhm.
in the first game. It's like
Hey,
Hey, kiddo. Something go wrong out there?
well, the main lines are clay, all cracked to shit and full of roots. We're not sure what we're supposed to do, and our foreman isn't foremanning.
Oh. Yeah, sorry. I'll be out there in a minute.
What you doing?
it's like
Fixing
even
these
even him calling her kiddo. It's like, wait, but
Yeah.
Ellie's kiddo.
yeah. You can, hold
It's
on,
like,
Joel.
who the fuck is this bitch? Who the fuck
You
are
can
you?
have 2 kids.
And it's just Pedro Pascal in his adorable little pop outfit.
Yep.
He-
Them glasses,
I
man.
think
When I saw those glasses,
I think it's because it's Pedro Pascal. We kind of forget how old the character Joel is supposed to be because
Mhm.
he's like 61 here.
Yeah, right, exactly. But just seeing Pappy Joel or Pappy Pedro rather with those glasses, I'm like, oh gosh, I love this man. I can't help but love this man.
Yeah, and I feel like because this season in particular, it gets a lot of criticism because
Mhm.
full spoilers ahead because we have to talk about spoilers for the second game in
Yeah.
order to really get to the root of I think what a lot of people's critiques of this season is because the inciting incident of this season is really the death of Joel by Abby.
Yeah. Mhm.
And it's I think the way it's handled here because we have the character Abby who's played by Caitlin Dever. And we said it before because in the game her play style is meant to be a mirror of Joel's and
Yeah.
thus she has that kind of like she's a ridiculously muscular character in
Mhm.
The Last of Us Part 2. They have a similar play style, even like the mechanics of like stealth are similar to Joel's. But here it's played by Caitlin Dever,
Mhm.
who is very much not that.
No, not at all.
But
She's a great
but
actress as well, but like,
oh
yeah.
she is a phenomenal actress. And even if I don't think that Dever has the physicality of Abby, which I think
Mhm.
is fair to Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin, because the body transformation required to do that is
Yeah.
ridiculous and very dangerous. You see a lot of actors who may or may not do various substances in order to get that
Yep.
look. And I feel like Dever managed to capture the rage of Abby, especially at this point in the story.
For sure. Like the emotion is there. Like even if I
Mhm.
may not agree to like how things are structured somehow, but like
Mhm.
just that scene we get with her where it's like, yeah, this one was just like she is chewing up every bit of this lines. Ooh.
Do you know how many you killed that day? 18 soldiers and 1 doctor. An unarmed doctor. You shot in the head. That was my dad.
And the show is right up front with you about Abby's motivation for hunting down Joel.
Mhm.
And on one hand, I understand why, because
Yeah.
you're casting a really big name in Caitlin Dever, one who's has a great career already. I think's already an Emmy nominee for
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Great in Booksmart.
Mhm.
But I feel like spelling out her motivation up front is one of the mistakes of the season because at this point in the story, at least with the way the first game worked and how that story is told, we're
Mhm.
supposed to hate Abby. We're supposed to see her as this ruthless monster who took, our dad away from us. We're supposed to see
Yeah.
her as, Joel's murderer and nothing else. And I feel
Mhm.
like giving her that dimension, it kind of betrays that part of the story, at least with The Last of Us, the game, at least with that, because we have to talk about the structure of the game because
Mhm.
the season 2 is taking that structure and adapting it to TV.
Mhm.
So much of what works in the game is we don't see that other perspective. So by the time we get to where this season's climax is, we're not thinking about the havoc that we've wreaked. We're not thinking
No.
about who Abby is as a person. We're not thinking about her and her friends. And doing that here, I feel like it just makes the season feel a little scummier.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like scummier, it just I don't know. Like it's
Mhm.
so it definitely was a choice, and they did it intentionally
Mhm.
to just understand Abby before we get to, of course, like a whole season about
Mhm.
her. But like I feel like the way the game does it, and like I had
Mhm.
trouble like just comparing it, but you're gonna compare it because, like you said, the structure is so
Yeah.
similar. You can't help to. But the way the game does it drops you in playing as this character, not knowing
Mhm.
who she
Yeah,
is, who her group is, why
yeah,
she's there.
yeah, because you're dropped in straight as Abby. We're
Mhm,
just led to believe, okay, this is just a new character in the game. What role does she gonna play in the story? And then it's
mhm.
not revealed until Joel saves her.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you see why she's there, and then like she just the shift in tone when she sees him. Um, and then yeah, like you said, like until we get to the part where we are her and like the latter
Mhm.
half of the game, that's I think really where like a lot of the understanding comes. And I think that was like probably my favorite decision in the game. And so I had a hard
Mhm.
time kind of going through this season knowing Abby already, like since we don't see her again after those first 2 episodes.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think if this show did anything well adapting, going from game to series, I feel like what the show does well is I think the show is, when it's at its weakest, I feel like it's just a great cover of a story that I love and
Yeah.
have played over and over again. But I feel like the show did a really good job of showcasing the weight of Joel's death, especially on Ellie, because Ellie is a character
Mhm.
that is very closed off emotionally, is very,
Yeah.
impulsive, is very reckless. At least at least in this version of the story more so because, we project a lot of our skills and our intelligence on Ellie while we're playing the game.
Mhm.
But
Oof.
I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. You're gonna die. You're all gonna fucking die.
mm,
Mhm.
yeah, and yeah, so that's something that I think the show does really well with adding weight and stakes to characters' death. To an extent, and I hate doing this, but
Yeah.
just to compare it to the game, which I'm doing everything I can not to
Yeah, same,
because
man. It's
the game
hard. It's hard not to.
it is hard, but there is one great change that they made from the game, and that made Jackson a bigger part of the show, especially
Yeah, I agree.
in episode 2. While you have this man versus man story going on with Abby and Ellie, you also have man versus nature, which I think
Yeah.
one of the highlights of the season, which is essentially this show's version of Hard Home.
Yeah, dude. They go all in.
Oh yeah, it's if you were complaining about not enough infected last season, oh,
They're like, "Oh, yeah, we
we
got
got
you."
you this time, boy.
All in one
Yeah,
episode
and
too.
it doesn't
It's
help
so
that this
nuts.
episode is directed by an HBO mainstay with Mark Mylod, who's done
Oh
episodes
god,
of
yeah.
Succession, who's done Game of Thrones, who's did one of my favorite movies a couple years ago with The Menu.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
you're gonna give him like the action epic episode of your show. And yeah, it's awesome.
It's pretty sick.
Even getting to see Tommy play a bigger role.
Mm-hmm. Oof.
Push! Push! Go, go! Push!
I love this.
Okay, this is cool. Yeah, this is
It's so
cool.
cool.
I don't care who you are. This shit is awesome.
It's awesome. Man, the music too, man, oh, so good.
Yeah, see HBO. That's how you fucking film a war against the undead.
Come
how
on
you
now,
fucking
you
do
guys.
No,
I can see everything.
I'm still mad about Game of Thrones. I'm still mad about Game of Thrones.
I understand. You should be, understandably.
I'm still mad about that shit.
God
But
damn it.
yeah, it's like everything is in such clear detail. You stick with characters that you know and love in this town. At least with Tommy and Maria, who have a big roles in this, and it adds a little bit more stakes to Joel's side of the story because he's rescued Abby at this point. He's desperately trying to get back to Jackson to help, but they're too far gone. They have to find shelter because they also have a horde on them. And it's
it's real good.
Something that Mark Mylod does so well as a director is that he knows how to build tension, even in the most like seemingly innocuous situations. Like he did so well in The Menu.
I agree. Like when before the horde even comes up, like in this episode, like you see like only what you think is a lot chasing Abby and Joel, and then like you see like there's a bunch like frozen like under, and they start like of course feeling the other infected around, and just like them slowly rising up is just such good infected apocalypse zombie stuff. I just eat it up every time, especially in this like the setting, and like you said, getting the whole of Jackson like to defend their town. Like we don't get a lot of Jackson in the game. We're there for a short period of time.
Yeah, it's basically
nice
just it's basically just set dressing in the game, and not something that we really get to explore the town as a community, which I think the show does really well in the third episode, because the third episode is very much the call to action for Ellie and Dina to go on this revenge mission, which I think is something that the show does really well, in that it does a good job of highlighting that Tommy is a very different character to who he was in the show, in the game.
For sure.
Because he has a son. He has, more responsibility in Jackson. He has to think about the greater good versus what he wants. And Ellie is a character who, at this point in her life, is not capable of that. And it does a good job of showcasing the full extent of Ellie's flaws.
Totally agree. Like in the game, Tommy is just as like almost gung-ho as Ellie about going to get revenge.
Yeah,
but like
even more so, because in the game, Tommy goes first to like spare Ellie from that burden of going.
But like here, like you said, like he has so much more responsibility. There's a council that makes these decisions like together. Like they even hold like a town hall, like to like see what they should do afterwards. And like you said, like what we just saw, like Jackson is a lot more affected than just
it adds weight and a reason why more people wouldn't be on her side, because
exactly
what does as much as we love a character like Joel, as much as
Mhm.
we, the audience, loves him, and loves Pedro Pascal as much as Ellie loves him. It doesn't erase what he did in the previous season. It doesn't erase
Mhm.
who knows how big Joel's body count is.
Yeah, exactly. And I think even just like even more so like with the game and the show, I think there's less time after like
Mhm.
Joel's death to like, to the revenge story. Like here, after the initial attack on Jackson, I think there's like a time jump, if I remember in the episode, like
Yeah,
there's a couple
and
months.
yeah, and in the episode, there's a couple months because Ellie like gets seriously injured in the
Mhm.
fight, which there are things that do get changed when adapting from video game to show. In
Yeah.
video games, characters are much more durable than they are as humans.
Yeah,
But you break a
exactly.
rib, you're gonna be in the hospital for a minute.
Exactly. Yeah. And
You're gonna
so
be in recovery for a while. So
mhm.
it's like good to have that time jump in that sense. And in the game, because it's a video game, because you have to constantly keep action going, otherwise, players are gonna get bored. You only get
Yep.
this like very short sequence inside of Joel's house, and getting to rummage through his stuff.
Yeah, just she like touches his gravestone, like goes to his house, and then like is almost just like, yep, revenge. We got to go. Tommy's
Mhm.
already gone.
Now I think that
Uh,
she's processing her grief, but no, she's just getting Joel's gun.
exactly right. Like here, Ellie has a lot more time to ruminate on Joel's death. Like she doesn't even really choose to grieve. Like she like lies to Catherine O'Hara therapist when she comes to visit her. Um, and it's just like Ellie is very much good at masking her emotions. Like that's one aspect
Mhm.
I really enjoyed seeing Bella Ramsey play into this season. Like they're so good at like putting on a face, um, but also like still keeping that joy. Like we see a lot of Ellie still curious, still happy when she's with Dina, but at the end of the day, like she's on a fucking revenge quest, and like we do see that darkness come out of her.
Yeah, in spite of what she tells the entire council, because
Yeah, right.
as and this it's a great scene between her and young Mazzino before this
Mhm,
council meeting, because he's on the council. He's like a little older. He like taught Ellie how to fight, so she's
mhm.
like respected. He's on the council, and he gives her some solid advice. It's like, yeah, try not to speak from anger. Write your thoughts down, say them out loud, which good advice for public
Yep.
speaking. However, when the council gets to voting, she's not even close. It's like
No, yeah.
3 yeses and like 8 nos. And this scene that's
Which
hilarious.
cost me in ways that sometimes couldn't be undone. But I can't afford that right now because I know what I'm asking is a lot. I'm asking us to risk more people and resources and at the worst possible time. And I want everyone to know it's not because I want revenge. It's not.
It's not.
You
Mm,
sure about that?
is it though?
It's like, yo, dead ass chat. It's not about revenge.
Come
Dead
on,
ass,
chat,
fam.
believe me. But yeah, like even like
Bro.
later, Tommy goes to talk to Catherine O'Hara, and she's like, "Oh yeah, she's lying. She's full of bullshit."
Oh, this shit is bullshit. It's like
Bullshit.
I half expected somebody in the town meeting to just be like, "Who are you bullshitting?"
Yeah, right. Honestly, somebody needed to say it. Most of them knew, but somebody needed to say it.
But the show, for good and bad, you get to spend a lot more time with characters,
Mhm.
and I think one of the goods, at least, because the show's already been announced for a third season, and to
Yeah.
really tell the story of The Last of Us 2, you have to get both perspectives. And I think one of the great additions is you have a returning character from the games of Isaac, who is played by the
Mhm.
wonderful Jeffrey Wright.
Oh my god, yes, dude. Because I feel like we did not get a lot of him in the game as much as I
Mhm.
wanted to, at least. But here we get, yeah.
You get one of the coldest moments of the character in the game with a another HBO alum.
Yeah.
Isaac?
You hand her hand.
Just
Oof.
the nonchalance,
Just cold.
the pure lack
So good.
of just the pure lack of chalance. And so much in that because in earlier in the scene you got Josh Peck, who plays another Fedra soldier who's bragging about the time he just assaulted a bunch of just citizens living in Seattle.
Yeah. Jesus. It's a
And you
great
get to
scene.
see
and-
you get to see more layers to Isaac than you do in the game, where at one point he was a freedom fighter. He was
Mhm.
a offshoot of the Fireflies with the WLF.
Mhm. Yeah, and then like we see how much has changed, how much can change in time with him straight up kind of torturing that dude and talking how great pans are, stainless steel pans.
It was like,
And it's
yeah,
so good.
yeah, I like cooking as much as I do. I'm, not really, particular about, the tools I use, but the way he was like glazing up what was it that he called the Mobile?
Yeah,
Like,
right. The way he says it.
like in torturing a guy with it, it's like, it doesn't retain heat, but have Mobile. You,
Oh
yeah.
man. Use Mobile. So good. I'm so glad they recasted him just like they did with the actress Marlene from the first season. Because when you have just these great actors, might as well just use them again. They're that good.
And
So I'm
especially
excited to see more.
And in a case where with Isaac, you didn't really get to see much of him in the game.
No, not at all. Yeah, not
And
like
and
I
so
thought
much of
they
the
would.
show is about expanding the lore, recontextualizing things
Mhm.
that you saw in the game, adding new layers and depth of humanity to other factions you
Mm,
see, even even getting small moments with the Seraphites, who a faction
yeah.
that we get to know more of in the game. Yeah, even in that same episode with this this small scene, getting to see this sweet interaction between a father and daughter.
No one falling, all clear. Keep moving.
Good. Once we get resettled, teach you to whistle.
Why can't you tell me where we're going?
Because we don't know yet. The reason we're going,
I know, but why can't she just keep us safe?
the prophet. She's been dead 10 years, Constance. I'm going to count on her to help.
But Ezra said the prophet is eternal.
Well, she is in a way. Prophet isn't magic. They're just people that see truths hidden from others and share that truth no matter what the cost. So it was with our prophet.
Yeah, and getting to see new wrinkles into lore that was established, because we didn't get to spend much time with the Seraphites in the game, besides Yara and Lev more in Abby's segment of the story. And
Yeah, right.
that one small moment, it like really showcases the cruelty between the Seraphites and the WLF that you see later in that episode and in the next one, where we see the
Mhm.
aftermath of their conflict with each other.
Yeah, right. It's ruthless and just like in the game, you wonder what started between these two factions to have them going at each other's necks like this, especially when Ellie and Dina drop into Seattle. They're like, what the fuck is going on? They're killing kids. It's very interesting. I'm glad to see more of them. Hope to see more like the Seraphites and the WLF, just like we did in season 1, getting more of just like those groups.
Mhm. Yeah, and moving on to the next episode, where we get, I think, one of the harder moments to adapt in the game, where
Mhm.
Ellie, is almost by chance stumbling upon next layers into her revenge mission for Abby, where
Mhm.
we have one of her friends, Nora, who in the show is played by Tati Gabrielle.
Yeah.
And it's like spores are introduced in this season of the show, which is a mechanic from the games that didn't get adapted, and I'm grateful that they are bringing it in here, because it
Yeah.
adds new threats to the cordyceps and the infection.
Mhm. Exactly. I feel like that's such a interesting dynamic. I mean, especially in this scene with Ellie, where she's like, "Oh, I don't care about the spores." Um, it's so good.
Spores. We're breathing spores. We're infected. You killed us both.
Did I?
The immune girl, you're real.
Yeah. Where's Abby?
Don't you know what he did?
I don't care.
You don't care. He killed everyone in that hospital, including the only fucking person alive that can make a cure from you. That was Abby's father. And Joel. Joel shot him in the head. That's what he did.
I know. Where's Abby? Where is she?
No.
Where is she?
Where is she?
Yeah, and yeah, that's one of the harder segments in the game to adapt. And full credit to Bella Ramsey because she, taps into a layer of rage that I felt like was, missing in earlier episodes of the season.
Mhm.
And
No, I
because,
agree. Like,
before that moment in the hospital with Nora, she's, kind of treating this like almost it's a rom-com adventure with her and Dina.
right? Yeah, I agree. Like, I kind of miss seeing more of that rage that is so
Mhm.
present with Ellie in the game. Like, yeah, there are moments of like lightness with Dina, or like, her curiosity is still there, guitar scenes, of course, but like almost in the game, there's like uncomfortable moments where like Ellie is like so set on revenge, be like, I'm gonna kill every one of them, or like, it doesn't matter, blah blah blah. And like, I feel like that was missing until, like you said, like this moment where
Mhm.
we see it on like full display.
Mhm. And I think a big part of it is that, even Nora and like the in the season finale, which we get, told that yeah, she didn't kill her, she just left her to turn.
Mhm.
And that Ellie doesn't even intentionally kill anybody in the show. And I think
Yeah.
that's like kind of a mistake because in the game, she is like a vicious little murder machine. And I think that is, because the show kind of wants to have its cake and eat it too, where the show wants to, tell the story of revenge and tell the story of how, you know, you lose everything going after this very selfish path like Ellie does in
Mhm.
the game and turn her into, but it also wants to be realistic of, yeah, somebody Bella Ramsey's size, you got to suspend a lot of disbelief that she can take on the amount of people that she kills in the game.
Yeah. And I totally understand that aspect, but like I feel
Mhm,
like unless we get more in season 2, but like I
mhm,
feel like they were setting up for her to be a little bit more of a badass when we get that beginning scene
mhm.
with her like training how to fight and like taking down that big dude. And so like I was half expecting a little bit more violence from
Yeah,
her
but
part.
but even the show kind of robs you of that because
Yeah.
the like big guy says that right away. It's like, yeah, I got punched square in the face. It was like, yeah, I pulled it. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, don't tell us that as the audience
Hey,
because you're trying to build
exactly.
up Ellie.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. And I feel like they were afraid to get her to how violent and ruthless Game Ellie is in the
mhm.
show.
Yeah, because I don't know about you, but when I was playing The Last of Us Part 2, the game,
Mhm.
I was dreading playing Ellie. It was like I
Oh
did
yeah,
not like Ellie by the time it gets to the third act of her story in that game. I
yeah,
was like, yeah, I would have turned back way before this. I would have turned back the second
exactly.
Jesse came into the rescue.
Right, and that's like the thing with like I guess the story in general. Like there's so many chances for her to
Mhm,
stop, for her to go back, for her to quit. It's not worth it. Think about it a little bit, but like it's just revenge, revenge, revenge. She has not
mhm,
processed her grief at all.
mhm. And it adds a layer of tragedy, especially because the show again does so good at fleshing out characters and building us and giving us context and recontextualizing what we know about Joel as a person, especially with episode
Mhm,
6, which is the one that is directed by Neil Druckmann and is the one
mhm.
that adapts all of the flashbacks with Joel that we see in the game. It has
Yeah,
the structure of this. Each segment is like a year of Ellie's birthday, and we get a great guest appearance from
yeah.
Tony Dalton, who is Lalo Salamanca himself playing Joel's father.
Mhm.
When it's your turn, I hope you do a little better than me.
And for game players, just knowing where this story is going to go in its third season,
Mhm,
where Ellie's character is going to, and the places that she goes, especially in the finale, it
mhm.
adds so much more tragedy to it.
I
If it
agree. Yeah.
wasn't emphasized before, it was now.
Mhm.
What did you think about
Especially with
how
just
uh the show plays it?
I really enjoy that aspect and just adding, like you said, adding that extra layer, getting that Joel flashback before the initial other flashbacks between the two characters.
Mhm,
Just getting more depth into Joel and his father and like what he was about. I think that just adds like a layer to Ellie as well because you are who you kind of girl be you are who you are around with. And she spends a lot of her
mhm,
time with Joel, and you see a lot of shades of Joel in her, no matter what she like wants to think about it. Um, so yeah, I love that line that Dalton says, like, I hope you do a better job than me. And Joel passes
mhm.
that on to Ellie, like later on. And like you say, yeah, this thing just becomes one big tragedy, especially when knowing what comes with all these characters.
And uh another change from the game, because in the game it saves the last conversation between Joel and Ellie until the
Hmm.
very very last moment. You
Yeah.
are I won't tell where you are in the game story, but it's like the very last bit before Ellie finally crosses that final line
Yeah.
for crosses the one line that she has left, and we don't get to see the last conversation she has with Joel. And
Hmm.
the show condenses the flashbacks together, so all of it happens in
Yeah.
the same night, but it is this beautifully acted moment between Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal.
Hmm.
For the readers. Could they have made a cure?
Hmm.
Did you? And Marlene?
Hmm.
And it's the continuously harp on the comparisons with the game Joel and show Joel, because I think TV show Joel is is a character that's much more in tune with his emotions, especially
Mhm.
in the 5 years post the events of the first game. We see
For
him
sure.
in therapy talking to Gale, because this takes place on the events of the night of the first episode premiere. And we see the weight that holding this secret with Ellie is taken on him. You see the full weight of it, and so much so that he can't even say it out loud.
Mhm.
And it's
Yeah.
like this beautiful choice that I think Pedro Pascal makes. And you
Mhm.
see all of the walls crumbling down between him and Ellie.
No, yeah, I'm right there with you. Like, this is one of those scenes where I think I like it as much or like as the game. Like
Mhm.
in the game, like there's a little bit of time in between
Mhm.
when Joel tells Ellie the truth and that confession on the porch. Here,
Mhm.
like they
Yeah,
combine
it's
it,
like
and I think
the
it
yeah, the
pays
event
off well.
yeah, the events of the flashbacks, because there's a couple of years in between when
Mhm.
when and it isn't even that Joel tells Ellie, because
Yeah, she goes to find out herself. Yeah.
Ellie goes and finds proof and catches him dead
Mhm.
to rights. So it kind of takes
Yeah.
that choice away from Joel. But I
Mhm.
feel like because suspension of disbelief versus what you can do in a game versus a show. I felt like that was a smart decision for the type of story that is being told, or at least the way that it's being told in the format of a television show. And we talk about what
Mhm.
works in a game versus what works on television.
For sure. Yeah, and I think like you mentioned earlier, Eugene, like this all kind of stems from Joel and Ellie's outing to go and rescue Eugene. Like it's her first time on patrol. Joel finally lets her on patrol. They hear about Eugene and some other person getting like attacked, and then they find
Yeah,
out
yeah.
Eugene's infected, and Ellie.
Eugene gets bit. He asks to, be led to the gates to say goodbye to
Mhm.
his wife. And this beautiful, scene with, Joe Pantoliano, who plays Eugene, who, in the face of death, all he wants to do is be able to say goodbye to his wife. And, not for,
Yeah.
to pass on words to her. It's, so he can feel some comfort. He's scared.
Mhm.
He wants, family. And
Yeah.
something I think The Last of Us does really well is that neither character is really wrong here.
Mhm.
Because, this is a very dangerous situation. Eugene could
Yeah.
turn at any point. It was like
Yeah.
put so many people at risk, but Joel tries to do what he does best and tries to, lie to protect everybody's feelings, and Ellie
Mhm.
rips that from him. Not for,
Yeah.
any altruistic reason, not because it'll, bring Gale comfort. Does it
No, she's
purely
pissed.
to spite Joel.
Yeah. Because like on that trip, that's when she was going to ask the questions about what happened with the fireflies. But then she sees Joel make that choice, and she says, like,
Mhm.
you had that same look on your face, that same look. And she just knew. And I really enjoyed Bella Ramsey's performance in an episode when she's like, you swore. And like you mentioned, like when she just tells the truth in front of Gail, like it's out of
Mhm.
spite. She's pissed.
Mhm. And yeah, before we, get to the get to the finale,
Yeah.
what are some of your thoughts on the criticism of Bella Ramsey? Because she has been getting I think, ridiculous amount of hate online for
Yeah.
how she's portraying the character of Ellie.
I think it's stupid. I feel like a lot of those complaints come from people who wanted Ellie in the show to look like Ellie in the game. That's why like they always like would talk about like casting like so many other people that like
Yeah,
look
that's like
more like Ellie.
yeah, Kaylee Spaney was like one of the
Yeah,
names who I think,
ex-
would have been a great Ellie, but I feel like Bella is, perfect. I feel like
exactly.
she understands this character in a way that, even has the seal of approval from Ashley Johnson, who played Ellie in
Right.
the video.
Exactly. And I think what like just as like how great Pedro is as Joel and brings different like shades of him, I think Bella Ramsey does the exact same thing. Like I really enjoyed her performance in the first season and even more so like this season. Like I think the casting people were absolutely correct when casting her for this.
Yeah,
And those
yeah,
complaints
with
are done.
Yeah, with season 1, I really loved her performance. I really felt
Mhm.
like it is, it's like, it's like the Alien Ant Farm cover of Smooth Criminal. It's like
Yeah.
it's a cover of a great song I already love, but it's
Yep.
also a banger. And
Exactly.
here, I feel like what made her so great as, 14-year-old Ellie, it's a little bit of a hindrance here with 19-year-old Ellie with the way the
Mhm.
story of season 2 is, written to go, where,
Yeah.
is like, because all they did with Bella Ramsey is they just like gave her a different wig and like let her wear more, clothes that were a little bit more form fitting for
Mhm.
a young adult versus, a child in the first game.
Yeah.
And I feel like, there is, a lot of physical demands that I'm sure the HBO, they released footage of her training, like going all John Wick, which I was very
Yeah, right.
excited to see, but we don't get that. And I don't know if
Mhm.
it's because Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann are really trying to, not push the boundaries of suspension of disbelief. But
Yeah,
I feel like Ellie needed to be a much more active character in this story because even
I agree.
the wins that she gets in her quest for revenge, it all happens out of circumstance. It's just
Yeah.
chance, really.
Yeah, like you mentioned, she does not kill a lot nearly as many people as she does, like, through her 3 days in Seattle as she does through the show. Like, there's many moments where I thought that was gonna happen, like, during the news radio station scene. Like, I thought there was gonna be, like, a shootout or, like, something back and forth there or something gonna showcase, the skills that she's
Mhm.
learned, like, as she's grown. But, like, I feel like if I like, it's probably one of my few complaints of the show. Like, I feel like they robbed Bella Ramsey and Ellie as a character for kind of changing um, that character and like how violent she is. Like, this is a story about
Mhm.
revenge and like what it leads to and how what violence leads to. And we don't get a lot of human on human violence from Ellie.
Yeah, and that ultimately culminates in I think one of the the climax of the season of at least the emotional climax of the season
Yeah,
where
for
we
sure.
get to the aquarium. She's like, this is the last place that she knows where Abby is, and instead of Abby, she finds Owen and Mel.
Yeah, which is a was already a pretty divisive scene in the game. Um,
Uh-huh.
but
Yeah,
yeah, it's
and
it's rough.
yeah, and I'm not gonna show the clip, but they make it so much more horrifying in the show.
Yeah. It's rough, man.
They add a layer to it that makes it so much more terrifying. And
Mhm,
there's this clip going on around online where it's from the Last of Us podcast, and he's talking
mhm.
about uh okay, but let me circle back. So in the
Mhm.
aquarium, Ellie, Axe kills Owen, but accidentally kills Mel, versus in the
Yeah,
game
who was
where
pregnant, right?
Mel's a character who's pregnant who, no tries to run the fade with Ellie, but gets stabbed in the
Yeah.
confrontation and dies right there. Here, she shoots Owen and the bullet passes through him and goes to Mel.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, I'm not gonna describe it because it's just rough to sit through, and I'm pretty sure explicitly talking
Yeah.
about it might get us like restricted or something.
Probably,
And
yeah,
I'm
'cause
pretty
yeah.
sure. Yeah, but Tommy and Tommy and Jesse, they find her there. They they come rescue her, bring her back to the theater where they're all hiding out. Everything looks like it's gonna be copacetic. They're gonna, let this go, not out of choice, but because Ellie is literally out of options
Mhm.
until we get, I think, one of the hardest scenes to watch, for fans of the games, and
Yeah,
if
you
you
know it's
like Jesse
coming.
as a character.
Sorry. Oh, man. Woo.
Stand up. Stand up. Hands in the air. I shoot this one too.
Just run.
Shut the fuck up! Stop! Stop! You. Just let him go. He killed my friend. No, I did. I was looking for you. I didn't mean to hurt them. I know why you killed Joel. He did what he did to save me. I'm the one that you want. Just let him go. I let you live. I let you live. And you wasted it.
Oof. See you next season.
See you next season, baby.
You gotta sit with that for about a year or so.
And
God.
I think that is, unnecessary, but it's a decision that when they were announcing that season 2 was going to be a straight adaptation of part 2 of the game.
Yeah.
It's something that I knew was a possibility.
Yeah,
It was a
right. I
possibility
pretty
that
much
they were
thought that they were
going
going to end it here.
But seeing it in execution, it brings a lot of the same complaints I had about the game to this season, because the structure of it is so closely tied to it.
Yeah.
You're essentially sitting for 7 episodes, because this is a shorter season versus 8, or I think it was 8
I think it was
episodes
8.
last season. And you cut down the episode order, and now you're getting to this rushed climax, which isn't even really the climax of the story.
Yeah,
This
exactly,
is like
yeah.
the climax, and you're asking an audience to wait an entire year or so to get the other half of the story, which I think is, a very brave decision on behalf of, Craig Mazin, Neil Druckmann, and HBO. But as an audience member watching this, and, if I'm trying to put myself in the perspective of somebody who hasn't played the game, who is not going to play the game, I don't know if I'd be willing to tune into season 3 after watching.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. It's a tough ask. We live in a time with a lot of cliffhangers, a lot of wait till the next season, wait till the next movie. Who knows when that'll come out? And so yeah, it's rough. Like, I don't know if I would want to wait as well. Like just seeing that, I'd be like, dang, now I gotta wait for who knows how long. To see.
And something that I feel like is a problem with Hollywood, and with a lot of streaming, a lot of television in general, is that a lot of creators will write something with the idea that a next season, a next installment, a sequel is a sure thing. It's guaranteed.
For sure.
It's like, this is going to be so well received that they're going to give us a next season or an installment. And literally, how many examples of that have on the freaking funeral pyre that is the pop culture of the 2010s? Is like, how many YA movies and TV shows did we get canceled before the box office receipts came out? How many seasons of TV? How many Netflix originals only get one season?
Too many.
Half the shows I like on Netflix are probably canceled by the time I finish this sentence.
Yep, they're gone. Sorry, I can't watch them anymore. Or by the time I finish this sentence, it's not on Max anymore. They took it off streaming.
And something that really stuck with me is it was this interview with C. Robert Cargill, who is a former critic on Spill.com, screenwriter who wrote Sinister, who wrote Doctor Strange for Marvel, who wrote The Black Phone. He had this quote. I think it was either him or he was paraphrasing somebody else. It was like, whenever you get a chance to write something or make something in Hollywood, whether it be film, television, a book, write it like it is going to be the last thing that they will ever let you make.
Yeah, that's good. That's good advice.
And I feel like with here, there was such this idea that a third season was guaranteed that they didn't feel like there was a rush to to tell the complete story, which is the biggest problem of the season. Even for the moments that I liked in this, it just feels so much like spinning wheels until we get full story in next season.
I totally agree. Like, and I think it has to do with the shorter episode as well. But you mentioned it, like, it does feel kind of rushed. Like it does feel like Ellie and Dina's Seattle trip is very quick. And I know like differences of the game, like a game is definitely going to take longer, but like I feel like there was even in the first season, I feel like there were more moments to sit with these characters or to even explore different avenues. Like we don't get any infected interactions in Seattle. No, only like one Seraphite interaction with Ellie and them. And so like I feel like it was missed, even if you are going to do a straight adaptation of part 2. I feel like an opportunity was missed to explore more of Seattle, explore more of Ellie and Dina, explore more of the Seraphites. And I know that could be coming in season 2 most likely, but like I just felt a little bit underwhelmed with how fast things went once Seattle got started.
Yeah, and to me, at least with Ellie's story, that feels like even in the game, that was the weakest part of the story. It was like I was, waiting more for, when we would get Joel flashbacks or when we would get to the action in the moments between, different encounters. It, felt like the game was, very repetitive. But, getting to let's hear some of your final thoughts on this season of The
Yeah.
Last.
I enjoyed it. I still enjoyed it, but I wouldn't say more so than the first season. Like I think the choices they made to differentiate the first season from the first game were like super strong and like kept me interested and surprised. With this season, I had a hard time even starting it. I was like, I'm more familiar with part 2 of the game, I would say, than part 1, especially after like replaying it recently. So like a part of me was like, okay, I know what to expect. I can wait to watch it. And while watching it, I did find it just tough. And like, we've been comparing it to the game and it's very hard not to. But there was just like a lot of things I felt that were missing, structure wise, pacing wise. It is still a beautifully acted show. Like we mentioned, Bella Ramsey and Pedro are amazing. Isabella Marquez steals the show. It is beautifully shot, great cinematography, but there's just like, it was just felt like something was missing. It felt like it needed that extra episode or 2, or just a little bit of like pacing, like structure, or even like maybe like not even do the exact structure of the game. Like you're following it so like on it. So and like season 1 was like brave enough to like take some departures. So like maybe half of me was expecting more of that. But yeah, I just kind of felt myself a little underwhelmed. And like, I mean, that's not to say this is still a great game adaptation, like compared to the slop we used to get. But I think just the bar that season 1 set was like very high. Just the bar the game set, even that like it was going to be a rough go to adapt this anyway. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand. Like I liked it, but I wanted to like it more.
Oh yeah, what would be your rating for season 2 of The Last of Us?
I'd say a stream it. I'd say like just a middle of the line stream it.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there. And it is, a very disappointing season, especially after how, just phenomenal I think the first season of The Last of Us is. It's, it's one thing, experiencing the story of The Last of Us, playing the game for the first time, during COVID, and, hearing that, HBO is doing an adaptation. There's no way that this could be good. It was like, okay, maybe they'll just like do different stories in the world of The Last of Us, which there's so much you could do. But
for sure.
then they announced that Pedro Pascal is Joel. It was like, oh, so you're just doing the game, which, okay, why would I sit down and watch this story retold that I've already played through so many times and I already adore? And the first season comes out and it still hits those same emotional beats that I love so much from the game. It's this very beautifully acted story. And I have a lot of those same points with season 2. I still feel like the show is, very beautifully acted. I feel like Bella Ramsey is, phenomenal in this performance. Isabella Merced steals every scene she's in. Her chemistry with Bella, I think, is phenomenal. The new characters that get introduced, especially young Mazzino as Jesse, I feel like you get so much more depth with him versus his game counterpart. And even the casting decision I was kind of iffy on with Caitlin Dever as Abby. I still for what it's worth, for as kind of clunky as I think this season is, I'm still looking forward to seeing
For sure.
the next season, because
Mm.
I feel like so much more of the meat of the Last of Us story is in the Abby section of the game.
I agree.
And I can't
I'm
wait
right
to
there
see
with you.
what Caitlin Deaver does with the material, with the, I think, much juicier material in that half of the game.
Mhm. For sure. Even more Jeffrey Wright, like we mentioned, like we'll get
Mhm.
like more of him hopefully in this next season. So yeah, I think it'll be fun to look forward to, but I am, just
Yeah,
a little bit cautious.
I'm more cautious about season 3 than I was for season
Yeah,
2. And
same.
for my final rating, I got to give this a kind of weak stream it.
Yeah.
I feel like when the show thrives, it is in the second and sixth episode. It is
Mhm.
in, the, hard home Jackson versus the infected, and the flashbacks with Joel and Ellie. And
Yeah.
you definitely feel the absence of Pedro Pascal in the story, which, on one level you should, because he is, such a
Mhm.
phenomenal actor, and his and Ellie's relationship is the core of the show. I just wish the episode order of this was longer, so we could
Same. Yeah.
spend more time with Ellie and Dina in going through this revenge journey between the two of them,
Mm.
because it feels rushed, which I think
Yeah,
is the biggest problem of the season.
for sure. Right there with you, man.
All right, so that was season 2 of The Last of Us. What did y'all think? Let us know down in the comments below.